Hello and welcome to Whyte Design, the podcast where we explore the stories behind the founders and senior leaders shaping the world of physical product development. I'm Chris Whyte, your host and founder of Kodu, a recruitment company dedicated exclusively to physical product development. Over the past decade, I've had the privilege of interviewing remarkable people in this space, and their incredible stories inspired me to create this podcast. In each episode, we dive into the journeys, insights, and lessons from founders and design leaders driving innovation in people and planet-friendly hardware. So let's get started. In today's episode, I'm joined by Tom Parsons, founder of Aetha Design, a product design consultancy based on the UK's south coast. Tom's career is packed with extraordinary experiences, from designing surveillance systems for superyachts, being deployed to an active war zone, to developing mass market products at Dyson, and then founding his own design consultancy. In this episode, Tom shares some of the most important lessons he's learned throughout his career, from staying calm under pressure and designing for extreme environments to balancing creative freedom with commercial realities. We explore how his early work in high-stakes military projects shaped his engineering mindset and how transitioning to consumer product development at Dyson taught him to merge technical precision with customer-focused design. We also dive into what it's really like to run a design consultancy, how to build trust with clients, navigate tough product launches, and manage the unpredictability of turning ideas into market-ready products. Tom's belief that people buy from people has shaped the way he approaches business, partnerships, and even the risks of launching Aetha's own products. If you want to hear real stories about designing under pressure, embracing entrepreneurial risks, and learning from both success and failure, this episode is full of candid insights and career-defining moments. So let's get into it. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Glad to have you here. So, Tom, your design journey is a really interesting mix of adventure and ambition. I mean, starting out designing camera systems for super yachts and then somehow ending in a military zone in Peru with armed guards. That's not a design story that you hear every day. So, and what I find really fascinating is how you took that intense, unpredictable start and used it as fuel for the next chapters of your career. Moving from bespoke high-end tech to mass production at Dyson, that must have been such a shift, but it clearly gave you the range that you needed when you launched Aetha Design. And what really stands out to me is about Aetha is how deeply you care about your client's success. The protein shaker project where your client scaled from a side hustle to a £3 million business, that's not just design, that's building a legacy. And then running your own Kickstarter for sunglasses, just to understand what your clients go through. Next level dedication. There's so much we can explore, from wild career twists to building a consultancy that thrives on meaningful partnerships. So Tom, let's dive into it, shall we?
Go for it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, again, welcome. And I always start kind of at the beginning here. So why design? What got you into product design development?
It's funny actually, I found some old school books at the weekend, looking back at home, and it reminded me back to my school days, sketching on my books, the things that I was good at, which was DT at the time, and art. I literally did DT, art, and physics. That's all the things that I was interested in.
That's all you need.
And yeah, that's it. Even art, I was just building stuff. I loved taking things apart, building things, working with my hands. I was always in the workshop, making things out of wood, making skateboards, making windsurfing boards. I just wanted to make things. So for me, I never really considered any other careers, which is, I think, quite strange for a quite a young kid to be kind of that sure of what they wanted to do. But yeah, no, from a really young age, that is all I wanted to do. And actually, I found a sketchbook at the weekend. I'd sketched out a name for a design agency. I must have been about 14.
And what was it?
Star Designs. I'm not sure where the inspiration was, but it was quite a cool little star logo. We're actually going through a rebranding process at the moment, and my graphic designer, one of them was a star. It's like, oh, that's actually
okay. It's full circle, isn't it?
Quite a nice full circle. But yeah, no, that was it for me. It was just building things. Yeah, just getting an understanding about products. Windsurfing boards was really the first thing, from repairing boards, making things like skateboards, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because you're into windsurfing, but that's kind of a passion of yours, isn't it? And you did that kind of before and whilst you're at university. Was that kind of did that motivate you to go to Bournemouth then? On the
Yeah.
coast.
So yeah, it's quite fun actually. My brother was at Loughborough, and so I applied for Loughborough, Bournemouth, and Plymouth. I think it was Exeter at Plymouth, and I was a competition windsurfer at the time, and going to all the events, and my UCAS form was just all about windsurfing, and I went to the Loughborough one, and the guy said, "Don't come here."
Yeah.
It's like, we are as far as you can get from the sea, and he was right.
Yeah.
Then I went to Bournemouth. I was like, this is what I want to be. Love the university as well. Full credit to Bournemouth University. I now sit on the board for industry at Bournemouth University. So
Cool.
so we meet every 6 months, and go to the design shows and things like that. And I've mentored students over the past, and I've got a really good memories of Bournemouth University, and still going there and seeing my old lecturers, which is good.
Wonderful. How did that come about then? Because I see that quite a lot for senior design folk. They've still got links to their old university. Did they approach
Yeah,
you, or was that a proactive decision
yeah.
on your part?
So it's been a while now. I believe they approached me. I joined the board, and then I go in to talk about placement years. So I did a placement, and back when I was at uni, it was mandatory. Now, state of the industry, there's not so many jobs around. It's not mandatory, but I think it's so valuable for people
It
to do a
should be.
placement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I generally go in and talk about my placement experience and how it's set up for final year university, and actually how I went back to work for that company after university as well. So if you are struggling to find a job as a graduate, if you can get placement experience and that kind of thing, is normally what I go and tell them about. And also portfolios. There's such a emphasis on a good portfolio, getting a new job, but actually it's not taught so much in university at the moment, particularly at Bournemouth.
So I let the conversation flow to the end of kind of where you are now before we kind of dive into some of these topics. But I feel like you've got so many interesting stories. I think we're probably going to miss coming back to these. But
Yeah,
so let's touch on portfolios then. I mean, I'm gathering that you guys have had interns. I think you had Sam, who won the Design
Sam
Truths Award. Yeah,
recently joined us.
it's fantastic. So a very kind of high performing intern there, and he's just joined you again. So, but what is it that you look for? I guess in a junior or an intern kind of portfolio that kind of people in that
Yeah,
situation
so
can learn from.
we I'm looking for a range, really. I'm looking for a generalist because we work on such a variety of projects, and we also work on every stage of the design process. So I'm really looking for someone that can jump in at any stage of a project. From, we really take everything from research and strategy through concept, ideation, development, through to design for manufacture, and then post manufacture support, we call it. So things like actual launches and Kickstarters and funding and that kind of thing. So what I'm looking for is a strong process, so that they can take a product from that early stage. I'm not looking for super flashy renders. That is a part of it, but I think what we see too much of is too many renders, not enough early stage problem solving. What we always do is give a little design brief for candidates. So generally, we go through a few rounds of interviews. We select a few kind of final candidates, and then we'll set a task, and that will be 8 hours. And we say keep to those 8 hours, and we'll give them a design brief, and that is hopefully something that we've got live, so we can see kind of how their brain works, what they can come up with, and how they can problem solve in a short space of time. Because that's another thing as well. Working in a consultancy, we work on much shorter length projects in comparison to in-house. Like Dyson might be 3, 4, 5 years from a product idea to conception. Our products range from minimum 3 to 6 months, up to a year. So working shorter time periods, being able to problem solve and being able to show that process early on is really what we're looking for.
I know you mentioned renders, and I couldn't agree more with that. You need to show kind of how you got to that point. and kind of show you working like back in maths, isn't it? But are there any other things that you see on CVs or portfolios that really turn you off? Are more likely for you to push that application into the reject pile?
I haven't seen one for a while, but I've seen a few kind of bathroom renovations in my time,
Okay,
and yeah, tiling projects or laying some flooring. That's probably the most turn off. Else
it's
have
got to
I
be
seen?
it's got to be relevant, hasn't it?
Keep it relevant,
Yeah.
absolutely. Personal projects are great. I'd actually say, I mean, most of my portfolio, particularly coming from Dyson, was always built outside of work, and even my camera business as well. I'd have my kind of my work portfolio, and then on the
Hmm.
weekends I'll be creating my own products and building a Behance and that side of it. And I definitely recommend doing that. Also going back and reworking any university projects and building up really your kind of best showcase of
Mm.
your work. But yeah, definitely keep it relevant and tune it to every company.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't need to throw absolutely everything in there on the kitchen sink,
Yeah,
and the tiles. Just cherry pick what's going to be of interest to that prospective
exactly.
business. So wonderful. Okay, well, thank you for going off path, and we'll come back now. So Vector then, and this is the interesting story of
Yeah,
war zones. Then, obviously, you're interested in kind of the marine side of things, but how did Vector developments come about? How did you get
yeah.
introduced to them?
So
Tell us the
I
story
was
there.
actually everything goes back to windsurfing as it does. My sponsor at the time, I told him at an event I was looking for a job. I'm a product designer and third year university, and said, "Oh, I think my mate Andy does that. I'll drop him a message." Anyway, I went for a meeting with this guy, and he was actually at Monaco super yacht show when he replied. I'm like,
Wow.
who is this guy? What is this company? And yeah, it turned out to be a super yacht thermal camera system company. So they designed bespoke camera systems for these huge, I mean, our kind of normal customers, like 100-meter super yacht, so bigger than Sunseeker's Princess. We're looking at a kind of, the big lessons and that kind of thing. Most of them were heads of state or big businessmen. So yeah, that was back in 2007. So the placement year with them, and if you remember, 2007, 2008, there was a little financial hiccup.
Yeah.
And, so the CPO industry did stall. At the time, we were on the top four out of kind of the top 10 yachts, I think, in the world. We're on the top four largest yachts. So we're doing really well in that market, but it's definitely slowing down. So we started to look at other options, and military was the next big one that we wanted to target. So my first project after university was developing a carbon fiber system for hovercrafts, which we sold to a little company in Southampton. And they mentioned at the time they're going out to Peru. And so we thought, okay, great, we'll fit the cameras in Southampton. The hovercrafts will be sent out to Peru, and yeah, well, that's our working relationship. And then, which happened 6 months later, we get a phone call. How do you fancy coming out to the Peruvian jungle to service the kit? And of course, I was the young, fresh-faced designer that just basically designed the system, so I knew it more than most. So I was sent out to Lima originally, and we we were staying in the kind of tourist side and getting sent over to the military base in the morning. And we got a taxi, and he said, "I'm, I can't. I'll drop you there now, but I'm not picking you up after dark." Like, what? Like, this is Lima. He's like, yeah, no, I'll stay with you. So we had this taxi guy with us in Lima, and then so we did that for a week, work on this military base, and then they said you're going into the jungle. So we got a military aircraft, which is a personnel carrier with tires, livestock, weapons, all of these guys that didn't speak English. So we're
How
kind of
old were
getting
you at this
herded.
point?
Oh, I must have been just finished uni, 22, 23.
Wow.
So yeah,
What
yeah, pretty
an
pretty young,
experience.
pretty yeah, it was. Yeah, we went from that plane onto a helicopter, first time in a helicopter, and this thing was a huge military, must have been 30 of us, I guess, in this helicopter with an armed guy on the front, hanging out with a machine gun and flying over all of these cocaine farms, which is what the Peruvian Navy were there to find. Their sole purpose
Right.
on this base was to find cocaine plantations. And I remember going over and you'd see all of these farms. And you see one with a helipad. Like, hang on, I'd probably go and knock on his door. So yeah, we end up in the jungle, complete ban on any land travel without armed escorts. So we had an armed escort for the
Yeah.
whole time. We weren't allowed to leave the base. Yeah, wild experience.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a live war, which we didn't know before we got there. The second day we were there, the next base down the river was attacked and a few people killed, and which was shocking to say the least, particularly
Yeah.
for our hosts there, which were young Navy guys. A lot of them were kind of straight out of training on their first post, first exercise, and yeah, absolute tragedy, which was really hard to see. And we had absolutely no idea before we got there that it was that
Yeah.
violent.
And
But
how
yeah,
long were
it was
you
an
there for?
experience. So we are in the jungle for a week. There was one helicopter in, one out a week, and we were sat on the tarmac at the end of the week, and the guy said, "Yeah, if it's too cloudy, they'll just come next week." That was it. It was like,
Oh,
yeah, if it can't land, we'll just stay for another week. Like, actually, quite keen to go home.
crikey. Yeah, that's nuts. So whilst you were out in the Peruvian jungle fixing kind of your equipment in a live war zone,
Mm.
what were your friends that, kind of your cohort of kind of product designers from Bournemouth, where had they ended up kind of in comparison?
Probably slightly more comfortable situations. Yeah, we did. It's funny actually. Back then, I don't think we had Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, so I couldn't share any of this experience as well. So I had no idea kind of what the outside world was happening. But yeah, a few of my colleagues, they went to Dyson. Was quite a normal thing at that time. Always a couple of people, and then lots of career changes. I
Mm,
think it's quite common with product design. Lots of graphic design, web
yeah.
design. It's kind of I wouldn't say the birth of, but user experience design was
Yeah.
growing as a category as well. So yeah, I was probably the only one in a war zone at that time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, and you stuck that out for the best part of 5 years, didn't you? So it's yeah, what a journey. So did you? I mean, I'm guessing the jungle was the most extreme of the experiences there. I imagine you probably got yourself out to Monaco a few times, and
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah, we had some nice ones.
yeah,
That was the most type two.
yeah,
Probably the best trip I had. I'm a big sailing fan. Grew up sailing and everything. So the America's Cup is a huge thing. Always has been in my family. And this one call we had to do the same kind of thing. Service a camera. It's on a yacht, and they're traveling down to the America's Cup. I said, okay, cool. Like, we're trying to find a date. Dates were never aligning. They said, okay, we're going to be at the America's Cup on this date. Can you come to San Francisco? Yeah, yeah, I can. And it was the year that America just kept on winning. So it was meant to have finished by the time I got there, which was fine. I was on a work trip, it wasn't a jolly. But America kept on winning, and obviously I couldn't change my flight, so I'm on the plane, and they won again. So it's like, well, I'm going to get there the
yeah.
day that someone is going to win the America's Cup. I turned up to the yacht, and they said, yeah, we're not doing any work today. Grab a beer and watch the America's Cup. So I ended up on the finish line as America won the America's Cup, and it's just one of the
Oh, I bet
most
that was wild.
wild experiences.
Yeah, but
Absolutely
the
incredible.
Americans love to celebrate, don't they? I've just come back from Austin, and even just watching a college basketball game out there, it's like
Yeah,
every 2 minutes they're celebrating something. The cheerleaders are out going, "Here's the college soccer team," and it's yeah, oh, that must have been amazing. And
it
then
was
you had to do some
absolutely
work.
incredible. Yeah, yeah, and then we sailed from San Francisco to San Diego,
Wow,
which was another experience. And this huge sailing yacht. It was one of the largest sailing yachts I think ever made. It was absolutely incredible.
wow.
But yeah, not so fun when I was down in the hull as
Yeah.
we're out to sea, trying to figure out what was going on with this camera system, doing all kinds of things. But yeah, no, I did quite a lot of traveling around America actually, which was quite fun as part of that job. Spent a lot of time in Miami, Florida, up in Maine, San Francisco, San Diego. Yeah, all good fun.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And then when we talked kind of to prepare for this call, you said that joining Dyson, which was your next move then in 2014, you said that was an active kind of conscious decision because you wanted to go from that kind of high value but low volume kind of bespoke work through to mass production with correct me if I'm wrong, but with a view to one day setting up your own consultancy. Was that?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, it was, yeah, as I said at the top, it's childhood ambition to run a consultancy. I don't know where that came from, but that was in my head from a fairly young age. And then I got to the point with the camera job that I was, yeah, the traveling was getting a bit much. So I wanted a kind of a fixed place of work. So I started looking at consultancies. I thought I wanted to go and work at a consultancy. Had quite a few interviews, and then I made the call that actually I wanted to run a consultancy, which was quite ballsy for a 20, however old I was, 26, 27-year old. But I decided I didn't have the experience at that time. I would have been doing a disservice, I think, if I had started a consultancy only with my camera knowledge, because we're only ever designing products for maximum. I think the most we ever made of anything was 50 units, a CCTV product. So I wanted to go and learn all about the other end of the industry, so designing things in the millions. And I spoke to a friend of mine who worked at Dyson, and he said, why don't you come here? And suddenly it was one of those things I thought, yeah, like actually that is everything that I want. That is everything that I want to learn, and probably the best place for it in the UK at that time. There's more since, but at the time that was the biggest place for design, and also they were growing rapidly. So I applied, got a job as a design engineer, and then worked my way up through as many teams as possible. So I think that was actually one of the my kind of conscious decisions early on, was to try and be in as many different teams as possible and work my way around. So I started off in a technical motors team, I think because of my mechanical knowledge before, but I quickly made the decision I wanted to go and look at, I wanted to work in main body teams, get more of a look on the industrial design, the user experience. I worked on everything from the robotic cleaners through to my final project, which was a UI project around
Okay.
integrating screens and buttons into products which are now
So how
released.
did
It's good to
you
see.
how did you push that through then? Because I've spoken to a lot of Dyson employees and ex-Dyson employees over the years, and one of the downsides really for working at Dyson is that in a lot of ways they're structured like an automotive business. You've got people who specialize in a very specific kind of area of the product, and they do that for years. And I think it's great whilst you're in there, but then as we've seen over the last few years, there's been rounds of redundancies or kind of structural changes, and they come out into the market, and all of a sudden the other consumer brands aren't operating in the same way. And it can be difficult for them to then transition into
Mm.
a more agile way of working or a more complete product kind of development kind of sense, as opposed to being a very siloed. But you've pushed that, it sounds like consciously you pushed that through to get experience.
One of the best bits of advice I got early on was make yourself expendable in a team, which might seem counterintuitive. I think what a lot of people try and do is kind of hold on to knowledge and make themselves more, or make themselves valuable by
Yeah.
holding on to that knowledge. But I was always told, don't do that. Learn as much as you can, but also make sure you're the guy that could then go off and do something else. You're not tied to that knowledge. And so I always made sure that if there was a structural rechange, or if there was, I'd keep my ear to the ground, basically, what was going on in the other teams. Dyson seemed to have kind of a big shift every 2 to 3 years, and I joined just as that shift was happening. So I got kind of two large shifts, so kind of two complete gear changes. It was more of a point of just putting your hand up. So I
Yeah.
joined anything that I heard was going on. So there was a program at the time for future managers called Pioneers. So I, yeah, put my hand up for anything, absolutely anything, even if it was going to help set up an event in the company. It was like, yeah, I'll go and do that. Great. And I'll might meet someone there who says, we're thinking about doing this, come and join this team or something like that. So, and I always, one of the big things for me as well was trying to kind of find out who worked with the top management, because they were the people that I wanted to learn from. Because I think the other thing with Dyson is it's really bottom heavy. Yeah. So the average age when I was there was mid-20s. There's few managers, but the people that were, had been there for a very long time, and they're hugely knowledgeable. So by going on to programs like that Pioneers program, it meant I had time with the CEO. That wasn't many 27-year-old designers spending
Yeah.
time with the CEO at the time. So I'm learning from him, and then also getting face to face with James as well was huge. And I knew there were certain teams that had more time face to face with James than others. So at the time, the motors team didn't almost at all, because it was kind of an internal mechanical product. He was really interested in the user experience projects and more of the visual kind of external housing based products. So that's where I went, and I did end up sat over across the table from him, which was really inspiring.
Wow.
And yeah, I had no idea what that would be like. Pleasantly surprised. He was so sure of himself and his own ideas, and how he knew every single product that we would bring to him. He knew the history of it, and he knew which way to take it. And sometimes we would walk out thinking, really? Is that the right idea? But we'd do it.
Yeah.
To James Dyson. And then 6 months later, you're like, yeah, he was right. And so I had a few of those kind of, really inspiring moments. And that was a conscious effort to kind of put myself into those situations. Never be afraid, to put your name down for anything.
So yeah, you're networking internally there, aren't you? And you're pushing yourself, putting yourself out there, being curious. And that's one thing that really strikes me every time I speak to you, Tom, is that kind of that natural curiosity that you've got. You just want to kind of find out whatever you can. It's great to see. So yeah, advice to people: don't be afraid to ask questions. Put yourself in those situations.
Find yourself a mentor as well. That really helped me. Was put your name forward for a mentor if you're in a larger business, even if they're not in your line. So I had mentors in project management and all these other areas, just to get a completely different take on business as well. I think it's really valuable to have a business head as a product designer, because
Massively, yeah.
At the end of the day, we're designing products to make money. So understanding the business side of it, I've always seen to be really beneficial.
Yeah, just having someone you can bounce off in any walk of life, really. Even in a huge organisation like Dyson, where your teams are fairly large, you can still feel like you're bouncing ideas off the same mirrors of yourself, aren't you? So getting someone from outside the organisation or outside of your team, doing a different role, being valuable, and it's something that I've personally benefited from over the years with various different people that have coached and mentored me on my journey, and
Absolutely.
I love it. So brilliant. So from Dyson, then, at what point did you feel you were ready to start Aetha?
So another kind of change of events. It was actually, so I was at Dyson for 4 years, I think, 4 and a bit years, and 3 months into being at Dyson, I got an email completely out of the blue from this guy, and the email started, "I've seen your Behance. I'm in Arizona. I've started a camera gimbal company. We're all mountain bikers. We'd love for you to come work with us.
Okay.
3 to 6 month contract." And I'm reading this email thinking, A, is it a scam? Sure, this is too good to be true. And I got to the end of it. I thought, it was the dream job laying out for me to go and work for this guy. But I had to say in the end, I said, sorry, I'm I've literally just started. I'm not even through my probation yet at Dyson. But the guy I used to work with, so my MD at the camera company before, was just changing careers again as well. So I said,
Okay.
contact him. We've got the same knowledge in that kind of camera area. He'd been doing it longer than I had, but working on similar products. So this guy, so yeah, it's heartbreaking as it was. It sounded like an awesome job. I gave it to my old boss, and they ended up working together for the 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty much solely. He ended up pretty much solely working with this chap. And then about 4 years in, I got a phone call from him saying, "Would you come back to the South Coast?" And so I spent a bit of time kind of thinking what that would be. And I had it in my head that I was going to start an agency. And I said that to him and said, "Well, come back. We can do that together and we can carry on working with this guy on his camera systems." So there was probably a year of business plans and building a website, building a portfolio on the side. While I was at Dyson, I was building the Instagram. I came up with the name Aetha and bought the Instagram website, that kind of stuff. So it was a side project for a year, while actually my business partner was running the business.
Okay.
And so he was building up a client base and designing these cameras. So that really gave me the confidence to leave. And I think I probably wouldn't have left going to start a business from scratch. I think that would have been too risky at the time. But I made the leap. I went to his office. We started working together, but it became very clear within weeks that he was actually very much involved in the cameras and less interested in the agency consultancy side.
Got you.
Whereas I felt like the cameras was my past. I really wanted to break away from that, and I wanted to work on everything and anything. That's what really excited me. So yeah, and then within a few weeks, I ended up on a plane. I did a 46-hour, I think it was maybe 50-hour trip to Australia with his cameras in my first
Yeah.
month. I had to book a flight in the morning, jumped on a plane, went to Australia, had a really difficult meeting, and slept on the floor of a hotel room, had a meeting, and then flew home the next day. So I went to Melbourne for the day, which was
Crikey.
another wild experience. But that was really, that was kind of early days and thinking this isn't what I want to be doing. That was my old life, flying all over the place for these kind of things.
I'm interrupting this episode to share some exciting things happening around Whyte Design. At the core of this podcast are the incredible design journeys my guests have been on and where they're heading. And these journeys stem from the relationships they build, the communities they're part of, and the amazing achievements that come from collaboration. So beyond the podcast, we're hosting regular online huddles and quarterly meetups in the UK, with plans underway for an annual gathering in the US. We're also running hands-on workshops both in person at makerspaces and online to connect and inspire people in physical product development. So if you'd like to join us or stay in the loop about upcoming events, sign up at teamkodu.com/events or click the link in the show notes. Now, back to the episode.
Couple of questions then. Firstly, why were you on the floor of the hotel room and not in a, not in a bed? And secondly, what was it that was difficult about the meeting, and kind of, I guess, how did that impact you going forward?
Yeah, so we had an engineer out there.
Yeah.
And so we had this guy that had been out there for 10 days and they found some issues with the camera system. It was super harsh environment. It was on these racing yachts that were doing probably 40, 50 knots, and this camera had to take on a huge amount of abuse, and it was a lot of 3D printed parts, and it was very, very difficult environment for the product. So I had to go out there and kind of help service them again, a bit more service work, trying to get them running for an event. And that's how I ended up on the floor of someone else's hotel room. But they were meant to be doing, the plan was I was going to go for 10 days because they were doing an event, and I was going to go with the cameras to the event. I got off the plane and the guy met me at the airport and he said, "Yeah, we're not going to the event." So
Right.
I was like, cool, I might as well go home then. So it was literally the next, the next day or
Crikey.
two. I can't remember if it was one night or 2 nights, but yeah, that was that trip. And then, so yeah, we ended up actually only working together maybe six weeks. I can't remember how long it was. It was a short period of time, and we decided
Yeah.
to part ways. And so he took the camera side of the business, and I took the consultancy side. But what was quite scary was, as I said, I wouldn't have left Dyson to start a company from scratch. Suddenly,
Yeah.
I was sat at my kitchen table with a company
Yeah.
to start from scratch. And that was, incredibly humbling experience with a mortgage to pay. And to go from thinking that you were joining a 3 or 4 year old business to day dot. But yeah, we got a lucky break. There was maybe a month of hustling LinkedIn and going through all different things.
Talk us through that kind of that month then. What did that look like in terms of outreach or kind of strategy you had then?
Yeah, so my thought process was pretend to be someone looking for a product design consultancy. So
Okay.
get into the mind of someone. How do you find a consultancy? And then once I figured out how you find one, then make sure you're on the other end of it.
Good.
So I was looking at all different kinds of websites that were places, so any kind of lists of websites, any registers of design agencies I was trying to get onto, and also going through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is incredible how you can message anyone, people are willing to talk to you. You know, I was talking to CEOs of huge businesses, and they're happy to chat. I think it's a real leveling field, LinkedIn, where
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think as long as you're not selling so much, it's just want to chat, want to understand, how does your business work? Do you use consultancies? That was the kind of chats that was going on. And that was about, it's another maybe a month of that before I got a phone call from one of the clients that I was talking to when I was with the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up the phone and I said, look, we're not the business that you were talking to. It's now just me. Are you still willing to meet? And he said, yeah, I've had business partnerships that, that have ended in the past, and it's new beginnings, and it's you that I would have been working with. Come meet me in London with the client and kind of pitch for the job. I thought I was pitching for the job. Turned up in this Mayfair restaurant with my laptop, and in the meantime, I was building a team. Someone explained to me about Hollywood agency, I think is the term, where you're a one-man band, but you've got a software guy on call, you've got a UI guy on call, you've got a mechanical engineer on call, FBA. So I built this network in that month. I was going to find who locally I could work with on that basis. So I had this presentation of, this is my team of 5 people.
Yeah.
This guy is my electronics guy. And straight away in the meeting, I knew I had the job. There clearly wasn't anyone else they were talking to. So that was my first big break, really, that paid the mortgage and was able to then hire someone off the back of that, originally for a couple of days a week, and then that turned into a first full-time employee. We moved into the garage from the kitchen.
Nice.
And then we went from garage to our first office. By that point, there was 3 or 4 of us on the payroll.
Yeah. How long did it take then to make that move from garage to office?
It was about 6 months, I think it was.
Pretty good going.
Yeah, it was a cold winter.
Yeah.
And we found this amazing space, really, really low rent, actually not far from where we are now. But it was it was an old ironworks, single glazed windows. It had a transparent roof, which was also freezing cold in the winter and baking hot in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in my conservatory. That's my office until I start hiring local people. But yeah.
We were there a couple of years before we moved out of there into our office with central heating.
You've made it when you've got central heating.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But I love that. I mean, having that team, that extended kind of collaborative network. I see it so many times with small consultancies, or they rely on contractors, but having kind of a trusted on-call team, but then pitching that as your team. I think that's probably the difference. That really, then
we're maybe a little bit more open these days.
Yeah, but I think, but you've shown as well. I think if you're transparent with people, I think people. It's the old adage: people buy from people, and especially in a service-based business, they want to know that that they're getting what they're getting when they put their money on the table. And with a small business, it's you as the founder, but you've actually got these links that you can provide a much more thorough service than, say, a consultancy of similar size, but it's full of juniors, let's say.
But you've
got it on
absolutely.
tap. So that's wonderful. So fast forward to today, and talk me through some of the highlights then of the last, because it's coming up to 7 years, isn't it, in January? Last 7 years of Aetha.
Yeah, it's flown by. No, it's been a huge experience. We're on, I think, about 130 odd clients now, of a huge range from huge global companies like Osprey, Backpacks, Caterpillar, Marine, and then on the side of that, lots of entrepreneurs, lots of startups. Some of them, have turned into sizable businesses, like you said. The Form protein shaker guy is definitely one of those. Couple bottles as well. We did get a bit of a name ourselves for being bottle designers for a little bit.
Yeah,
I think we've done 5 or 6 drinks bottles, homemade projects now, but we do a lot of sports products. Actually, our biggest client now is a tree surgery climbing business in America.
Okay.
I think they're the world's largest in tree surgery. So that's our kind of largest client. And then we work on all kinds of different projects as well as that, from surfboard bags to drinks and homeware. But no, over the years, we've had some pretty fun projects. And really early on, we got a one kind of thing. I only remember this morning, just popped into my head. I got an email. So we designed an EV charger.
Okay.
Pure industrial design.
Yeah.
From an office in London. Said, we've got this client in China. They would like a UK company to design an EV charger housing. We don't need to do any mechanical design, just pure industrial design direction. So we did this project, thought nothing of it. And then about 3 or 4 years later, I got an email again saying the same company would like to use you guys again. And I thought, cool, forgotten about it. Did they use it? No. It's just like, do you not know? It's the top 10 selling EV charger in China.
Oh, wow.
We're like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. From what was like a fairly small project for us, that we thought that we were just providing a couple of concepts to a company that didn't use them, to then
I'm guessing you didn't get royalties on.
Absolutely not.
On the sales there. No, because you probably would have known about that, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Seeing those come through.
Definitely would have known about that. It's funny because it's one of those projects that I think about. I wonder if anything happened. I remember Googling it once and saw it at the Paris Auto Show.
Oh, cool.
And then to find out that it was like one of the top 10 selling chargers. So we've had some pretty fun projects like that over the years that are quite surprising. We've had some good Kickstarters, had a couple of Dragon's Dens, which are always fun.
Have you featured on Dragon's Den then, or is it the inventors or the founders?
No. So we've had a few people tell me that we should take the sunglasses on there. But have yet to apply. But maybe one day. I don't know. Yeah, they can definitely go either way for the founders.
Yeah, I think you've got to have your pitch absolutely nailed, haven't you? And your story. So even if you don't get the investment, you want to come across as credible. And I think some of the best stories are where they don't get investment and they still go and smash it anyway. But tell me about your Kickstarter journey then, because you've done that in tandem with clients, but also for your own projects as well. So talk us through kind of the ups and downs of Kickstarter.
Yeah, so I guess back to COVID time, we got a large influx of side hustle entrepreneurs. I think it was the kind of people being furloughed, wanting to start their own businesses, and time on their hands. So we started looking at how products get funded. Obviously, there's the usual routes using government grants, which we've also worked on before as well. And then Kickstarter is just such an amazing concept for new businesses where tooling is always the largest investment. Trying to hit a tooling and minimum order quantities for a business starting from scratch is unobtainable to most people without a huge amount of funding. And I remember reading the Lean Startup, which was a book. I don't know, maybe that's 10, 15 years ago. But it was all about the exact opposite of the Dyson model, which is basically test your idea as soon as possible, early as possible, get it out there, learn from it, learn from your users, learn from your customers. And that's what Kickstarter does. It means that you can actually prove your concept early on. If it's good, you get funding through pre-orders. So you get your early adopters who know what they're signing up for. They know it's an early issue of the product, and they're much more understanding of that early product.
They're super engaged as well, aren't they?
Super engaged, passionate. They feel part of the process. At the end of the day, they feel like an investor when at the end of the day they're just getting the product. They're not investing in you or the business. But what it does mean is that you can set your minimum funding to pay for that tooling and that minimum order quantity. So you can get your business off the ground from a prototype, whereas before Kickstarter, much harder. You'll be looking for a VC, you'll be looking for that either government grant or a VC investor when you've got no proof of concept. And to pay tens of thousands of pounds for tooling without knowing that anyone actually wants the product in the first place is too much of a risk for a lot of people. So we learned that pretty early on, and we worked with Couple, which is our first Kickstarter, and we also invested in Couple as well in the early days, and we did that journey with them. So we learned the process of the Kickstarter system, then we applied that to several clients after that. And then it got to the point where we decided actually we wanted to do one ourselves, because there's only so much you learn being on the journey with someone. It's like, I want to do the process from the start so that we can then consult on that process 100%. So we want to make the mistakes and find where the wins are, find where the potential losses are. And so we launched our first Kickstarter, which was Times Eyewear. I think it was three years ago now, which was a huge success and was an amazing experience, because it was again out of my comfort zone, making videos and doing all of these things, sales and marketing. I'm not I don't have a natural ability for that kind of side of it. And so learning all about that process, but then also the funding aspect, and then going through the manufacture process, because again, we've done that with clients. It's never been our money, kind of our skin in the game, so to speak. So we did that, huge success, amazingly, and that has now built a business. So we're now on our second Kickstarter, potentially third next year, we'll see. But that's been a really good fun progress, and actually has now become a business in itself, which is a self-sustaining business, which is also pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, it's really handy to have as well, isn't it, to complement the consultancy business, which can be a bit kind of peak and trough, feast and famine sometimes in a service-led business. To have a revenue generator on the side, it just gives you a bit more security, doesn't it? Fantastic. So from the commercial side of things, is Kickstarter, obviously you're learning loads, but I imagine a lot of consultancies are put off working with inventors or kind of people with an idea. I want to do this thing. Can you help me? Because they often don't have a lot of capital behind them. But I'm guessing you take a different approach to a standard kind of larger company. So you go in with them. Does it work out? Your experience commercially, is that a good decision for you?
So we do both. So we have retainers with large businesses, which are our bread and butter. And because of that, we're able to then take risks on smaller clients. Actually, some of those have been the most fun projects over the time. They're much faster paced. So with the big clients, with someone like Osprey, it took us a year of back and forth before we actually got money in the bank to start the project. And that's because there's maybe 3 levels and a board between them and the payment, and then the payment comes from America, and it's all that side. Whereas with entrepreneurs, if they want to do it, they want to do it. It's there and then. I'll pay you today. So there's that side of it. It's much quicker to go on that project journey, and actually, it's a much more personal relationship. I think I've really enjoyed seeing our clients grow. So you mentioned the Form guys. So they've actually recently bought Couple as well.
Okay.
So
cool.
two of our clients now become one business. But so watching those kind of businesses grow has been great, and kind of helping people along the journey. And also something I learned early on as well, you don't know where people are going to end up. And actually, you could work on a small project, which might seem like a small project at the time, but then that person might go and work for Braun.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so my ethos from day one has always been to treat every client exactly the same. Doesn't matter who they are, what size of business. And early on, we made a real conscious effort to over deliver and just really look after the client, do everything we can for them. And I've learned that through other businesses where I've seen people more be about getting the deposits in, just about getting it in and then going to look for the next client without servicing the previous client. And letting that relationship degrade. I've always been the exact opposite, and like, no, I want to invest in that client because that's what's going to grow our business at the end of the day. And it's much easier to retain a client and help them grow than try and find a new client from scratch. So I've been very lucky that we've that has really worked out for us in terms of clients recommending us to other businesses. And happened recently. We worked on a camera, a digital camera called Alice by Photogram, which they're on an AI grant scheme in New York, in the same room as a whole bunch of new startups that are all funded. And we've been recommended to one or two of those. So suddenly we're getting a phone call from San Francisco on a new product design. So I'd say that's always been a conscious effort. Doesn't matter who it is, treat them with respect.
Yeah. If you treat people with respect, be a nice person, and nice things will happen. That's been how I've tried to live my life, and it's done all right so far.
I remember the Dyson CEO, his top tips were be bold, be brave, be bold, get shit done, and don't be a dick. So words to live by.
Absolutely, it's blunt but effective, and very, very true. So wonderful. Look, talk me quick, because we're running out of time here. But yes, is coming up. It will have been and gone by the time this episode goes live. But you're a judge on, I think, aren't you, on some of the awards there?
Yeah, second year now. So I applied as one of my clients actually put me onto it last year and thought I'd have no chance. It's one of those things like, I'll apply, but I can't imagine we'll go anywhere. And then suddenly I got an email saying I'd been accepted.
Amazing.
Alongside people from Amazon, Google, Apple, BBC. Okay, cool.
Fantastic.
So last year I had the consumer electronics category, so lots of products from LG, Samsung, that kind of thing. This year I've got sports, so
nice.
I've been judging
right in your wheelhouse.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's been some really, really interesting projects in there this year, products. So I'm looking forward to going out and seeing all the kind of new cohort of innovation awards.
It's what an honor to kind of be accepted there. But I'm guessing, a lot of people in your shoes running small consultancies would kind of assume I've got no chance of kind of getting called up here, but then they don't. I guess a lot of people wouldn't even know where to start when it comes to applying.
That's it.
I guess the message is just put, again, like you did back at Dyson, put yourself out there, get in the conversation, and good things will follow. So awesome. Have you, because this is your second year doing it, have you had wins off the back of doing it last year? Inquiries and business that you can track back to it?
So definitely the wins are going out and meeting clients face to face. So last year, the amazing thing since COVID particularly, we don't get to meet a lot of our clients face to face anymore. Most of
Yeah,
our work is through Zoom and things like that. So for me, it was about going and being able to meet our clients that we've been working with and for the last couple of years, and then also, hopefully meeting prospective new clients. But trying to enjoy it as well. It's one of those things. It's a good thing to see, and trying to see what the future of technology and kind of keeping an eye into particularly the way products are changing. I think that one of the most useful things for me last year particularly was to see how products are changing with the kind of advent of AI and the way that side is moving. So it'd be interesting to go back for the second year to see what has changed going forwards. Hopefully be a
absolutely.
good show.
So you're going out, and we were talking before that we started click record, trying to book a bunch of meetings and see customers, etc. But I guess a part of it is going to be walking the halls and kind of going up to stands. Do you have and I'm just thinking for the kind of consultancy owners or biz dev people, that are going up to stands, it's a nerve wracking thing. Do you have an icebreaker, a kind of a question that you ask, or, something to kind of start the conversation going at the stand?
Yeah. I wish I did. I think that's probably the most out of comfort zone I can ever get, is just
Yeah.
wandering up to a stand. No, I'd
Try being a
say
recruiter and doing it.
and the difficult thing really is to actually gauge whether there are any decision makers on the stand, particularly the larger companies. They have events teams. These are people recruited just to be there to show you the latest tech. They're not the design teams. They're not the design managers. So I generally try and find out kind of who they are fairly quickly, because there's just so many people there. You have to know early on if it's a worthwhile conversation. This year I'm definitely going to try and book meetings beforehand. Last year was very much first time, go and see what happens, trying to kind of find the lay of the land, and then walking the halls is a very difficult job. And actually, there's two sides of it for us. There's one is finding potential clients, but then there's also finding potential manufacturers. There's a lot of Far East manufacturers, European manufacturers go there to show their capabilities. So making contacts for clients as well. Particularly electronics as well, 3D printing technologies. So trying to soak up as much of that as possible.
I know Formlabs are exhibiting, and I imagine a bunch of other 3D printers are coming. But I'm sure I read something this morning or yesterday about Chinese visas being declined for the show,
Oh,
ahead of
really?
the show. I'm
Oh,
not
I
sure
haven't
how
heard that.
true that is, but that's going to
That will
put the
be a
brakes on.
huge, huge issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have to read up
Well,
on
if
that.
it's anything like Aetha, I mean, a good third of the stands were Chinese companies, and even kind of some legacy kind of heritage British brands were now owned by Chinese companies. So it's very difficult if you hadn't done your kind of homework to pick out. For me, I work with Western kind of based companies purely for, time zone kind of
Yeah,
issues, really. Just trying to manage my time than anything. So you can get halfway into a conversation and find out, actually, I can't help you and you can't help me. So that's just nice to meet you, but it's a bit of a waste of time, isn't it? So, but interesting. Well, I'm very much looking forward to it. It's my first trip out there. And hopefully I'll catch you out there.
yeah,
But
definitely meeting for a beer.
absolutely, yeah. So we've I'm going to ask you, you've already given me a book idea, so the Lean Startup. I'm going to ask you what you're most looking forward to in the next 12 months then of your kind of design journey.
Hopefully growing our client base, working on some interesting projects, and also working on a broader range of products as well. As I say, we've been mostly in the kind of sports and homeware products at the moment. So hopefully, we'll see where we are in a year's time. No,
Awesome.
big exciting projects. Hopefully.
Wonderful. And if people want to reach out to you, is it best to do it through the Aetha website or LinkedIn, or have you got a preference?
LinkedIn's great. Drop me a message on LinkedIn or find us on aethadesign.com. My address is on there, but if not, hit me up on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Well, obviously, we'll do loads of promo around this when it goes live in the new year. But Tom, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Speak to you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Why Design. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review wherever you're listening. It really helps others discover the podcast. And while you're at it, why not share it with a friend or colleague who'd enjoy it too? If you'd like to stay connected or explore more about the work we're doing at Kodu, feel free to visit teamkodu.com or connect with me, Chris Whyte, on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.